Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm introducing you to Professor G Suresh, Vice Chancellor of Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication, which is in Bhopal. Earlier, he has served as Director General of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, India's premier media education institution, and he has been senior consulting editor with DD News. Welcome, sir, to the platform here where we are just going to check out with you the details of what is happening in journalism these days. I'll start with this question, sir. This journalism is drastically changing. In a way, disruptive innovation is happening. This is something which has been said about journalism these days. Do you agree with these statements, sir?
No, absolutely. I think that, first of all, Shajan, greetings on behalf of Asia's first media university and India's biggest media university, the Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication. Absolutely, I agree with you that journalism has changed and it is constantly changing. Never before in the last century, you have seen such radical changes that's happening in the domain of journalism. And it's a big challenge, not just for media platforms, journalists, but also media teachers, media institutions. So, but it's also a challenge and it's also an opportunity like never before. It depends on which way you look at it. Either the glass is half full or half empty. It depends on you. But I think it is really drastically changing, and it's changing for the good. Yes.
Okay, sir. These days, it's been said, say, print is going to die and digital is going to take over. Is digital media taking over journalism in that way? Yes.
Shajan, to a great extent, the statement is true, particularly if you look at the Western, the developed countries, and also some developed Asian countries. You see that print editions are winding up, people are going online. But in India, I don't see that it's time to write the obit for print. I think print still has a long way to go in India. It's like that India, we send satellites also, and we still use the bullock cart. Now, because both have their own utility, bullock cart is very critical even in the rural areas, in many parts of the backward regions of our country, even today. So bullock cart is not necessarily a synonym for backwardness. Similarly, print still carries a lot of credibility. Print, because of its very strong editorial processes, is still relied upon and trusted by a large number of people. Still, it's still the traditional media. So I think that people look at newspaper as a symbol of empowerment. It's something tangible you can hold in your hands. I'm yet to see a parliament debate where people will show the mobile phone and say that has been reported. But I can remember a lot of heated parliamentary debates where newspapers were waved and the editorials were highlighted. So that credibility, that respectability is something that the digital is yet to attain. I'm not at all ruling it out. It may take time. But as of now, in India, I think that print still is going to have, some space to, it will remain relevant for quite some time now.
Sir, is it the unlimited space which is there in digital media? Rather, in print, we have limitations. We have to cut short the stories and then put it. And again, kind of interactivity which digital is providing, the new generation is looking at that. Is it that's going to be?
One is the portability, and accessibility. And the second important thing is that, you are with a print newspaper, except for the in-depth, you see, print will also have to reinvent itself. I'm not saying that if print continues with the way it has been over the last 70 years, it will continue like that. I think that it will have to change. Print will have to reinvent itself. It's because breaking news is no more the domain of, unless it is a very scoop or exclusive, which has become very rare,
Yeah.
So investigative stories and all that, print will have to get into. Print will have to become more local, and also have a global kind of a perspective. Only then it would be able to retain its constituency. The good thing about digital is that it can appeal even to the neo-literates and the illiterates or the semi-literates, because of the availability of video content, because of the availability of animation, which can really make it far more, it becomes accessible so far as or comprehensible. Now, somebody who is not, for example, say, I mean, these days, of course, due to COVID, you have restrictions, but otherwise, say somebody from Odisha or Bengal working in Kerala as a plumber, or whatever it is. Now, for them, obviously, they can't understand Malayalam, right? They can't understand English also. So, and they can't subscribe to Oriya newspaper. So where do they go to? I mean, they want to know what's happening back home. So obviously, it is the Odia portals, the Odia digital, that would be more. I mean, just to give you an example, and this holds true for across and there is a customized content which is available. So I don't have to read the newspaper, the entire newspaper. I mean, there are many things which are not covered by the newspapers. But I'm keen about that. For me, unless there is a major development in, say, Chhattisgarh, I will not be interested in covering Chhattisgarh at all, any of the so-called national newspapers. But somebody from Chhattisgarh, even if he is in Boston, would be interested in knowing what is happening in Chhattisgarh, in Raipur, in Bilaspur, in specifically his own town and city. He would be interested in knowing that the local digital media would be able to provide. So the diversity of content on the digital media, and as I said, that it's much more user friendly. So that makes it widely acceptable.
Yes, sir. So this kind of thing like convergence, which is happening these days in major newspapers across the world and in India, in regional segment also. We use the manpower from the print because they have that good quality editing skills, language skills, and all, and then they move to digital. So kind of centralized desk, and then the stories will be delivered depending on the time slots which are for the news users to consume it. Like generally, we start with the newspaper in the early morning, then we move to digital, then to television. So, what do you think, sir? Is this kind of taking the content out to multiple delivery platforms will enhance the quality of journalism?
Well, absolutely. It's about integrated newsroom. And you have to customize. If you are going to provide the same content, I mean, if you, I will just give you an example. You can, I mean, even if you are a just very average user in social media, say there is a poster. Now, if there is a poster, now, if you are going to put it on Facebook, the same poster you cannot be putting on Instagram, because Instagrams, would require a miniature version of the same. So you will have to, the same content cannot go, because you can keep on writing on Facebook, but when it comes to Twitter, you have to use it within the 240 word limit. So every content, I mean, every platform has its own requirement. If you are going to just If you're going to just replicate what you are producing in a newspaper or an online portal, then there won't be takers. You have to. So integrated newsroom is fine, but is the newspaper guy trained? That is why today we are talking about multitasking in media education also. We are teaching multitasking so that the person can be simultaneously, good at editing a newspaper, at writing for a newspaper and writing for a portal, writing for a, because today people don't have time. Patience level has really gone down. People are too busy. They have other options available today. They have no constraint that they should read your thing. So within limited time, will you be able to convey? I mean, yes, they say that in newspaper, in digital portal, there are no limitations. You can write and write. But who will read? At the end of the day, since brevity is the soul of wit, I shall be brief. That's what Shakespeare said long time back. And I think that is what has to be followed in digital media also. Otherwise, there will be no takers. People just want everything in a, jiffy. And that's whether can you provide that or not. That is a big challenge, So integrated newsroom, fine. But it cannot be replication of content. It cannot be duplication of content. You will have to have diversity of content. Every medium requires a different kind of, the customers are different, the readers are different, the consumers are different. You have to understand that. So, I mean, a reader of a Hindu, the Hindu will not be, going to any flimsy website, I mean, or portal or YouTube channel. So you will have to look at, if you are looking at the Hindu team will have to look at a different kind of whereas the Times of India will have to look at a different audience altogether, who would be more interested in a lifestyle and things like that. So things are different.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, you've been to media education for a long time now. So what is that you think that requires a change in the media education for that matter?
I think
because you are in a position which, I mean, like, you can do this. Because
we are trying to bring in, Shajan, what is happening is that there is a need for a change of mindset. The problem is with the media educators, or for that matter, faculty. Now the national education policy has come. So it is going to gradually, radically change the way we teach. So unless you have that different approach, if you are going to just, you have to realize that you have to prepare students not only for jobs, but also to be job creators, and at the end of the day, media education somehow has come to be identified with teaching technology. And I have always said that technology they can access anywhere. Today's generation is so smart that even a kid with a mobile phone is much more technologically savvy than you are. Technology that they can you teach them how to create good content? Because at the end of the day, content will always remain yes, you need a balance between technology and but let me tell you, if you ask me, which one first, I at least, you may call me a conservative, but I at least will say that it is content. Because what else will explain the runaway success of a very, of a serial called Ramayana, which was using obsolete technology, they had no animation, no special effects, nothing, just a basic technology at that time which was available was being used. But then when it ran during the COVID period on Doordarshan, it created a world record. So what do people want? People want good content. So I think that, technology, yes, you cannot have a Bahubali film all the time, that alone is not going to work.
So content is always going to be the king. And maybe technology can be the queen, or
technology can be the prince.
Yeah. Great, sir. Great, sir. So when we are talking about technology,
the crown prince waiting like the British monarchy. King and the queen will remain always the same.
So this artificial intelligence has been the talk of the town for long time now. So can journalism be also part of taking some help from the artificial intelligence?
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think that AI can really, particularly in getting you a lot of stuff, particularly say reporters in the field, when they are there, AI can really get them a lot of information in terms of engagements with the audience. You see, today, even in fact, the world has gone ahead from a monologue to a dialogue, and from an engagement perspective to a conversation perspective. So today, media platforms are trying to converse with their audiences. So it's no more an engagement. It could be just a like, or a thumbs down or a thumbs up. But a conversation is where you are able to provoke the audience to react, and there is an engagement between the platform and that's what they are looking at today. And that is the biggest challenge today. I mean, content is being generated ad nauseum. But are they able to hold the attention? The attention spans have come down like anything. Are you able to hold the attention? So what are they resorting to? I mean, if you look at the Indian television channels, that's a classic case of, it's a fish market case. I mean, everybody is screaming at the top to get the customer to their side. So but they are unable to. And that is why this shift to the social media, shift to the digital platforms, that is happening, because everybody is engaged in the same thing. Nobody is talking about content. Where is the classic journalism? The rules doesn't change. We keep talking about changes, but that is in terms of accessibility. You have reached out to the last man today, thanks to technology. That is the big change. It is no more an elite audience that you are catering to. You are reaching out to a bigger audience today. You are giving them customized content today. You are in an era of user-generated content. Right? But when I'm talking about content, please remember the difference. There is a lot of difference between journalism and user-generated content. Yes, let's not confuse. Journalism will always be done by journalists.
Yeah.
And that's
one point. Yeah. One point you have always been raising is that, see, everyone can't be doctors. Everyone can't be engineers. Yes. But why should everyone be the journalist? No?
Yes.
This point is very well taken at many platforms. So what is that as Vice Chancellor of the reputed university, media university, you can put into this? Is there a licensing thing, or can there be kind of a media council of India, something to be formed and then be?
Shajan, that we had long back. You have also been a media educator. Like me, you also keep transitioning between a journalist and a media educator. It keeps happening. So my take is that you can't have words like citizen journalism. Citizen engineers, citizen doctors. We call them quacks. If they are citizen doctors, we call them quacks. So that does it mean that citizen journalists are also quacks? So let's not give them such. They can be citizen content creators, but not citizen journalists. Now, my thing is that you need a basic skills, and for me, basic skills is not about technology. I again said that. I keep saying that even a 5-year-old kid today is much more technological savvy than me, who is 50 plus. So that is there. But for me, it is about content. What you teach at the university is not just, you talk about the Constitution of India, which is so critical. You talk about, the United Nations Charter. You talk about the fundamental rights and duties. You talk about, the IPC and the CRPC. You talk about libel, defamation. You talk about right to information. You teach them, You give them critical thinking.
Okay.
You teach them how to critically think, analyze, use the data. This cannot be done just like that. This has to be taught. There has to be classroom teaching. So I believe that we have always recommended, long time back, we have been recommending that there should be a national register of journalists, a media national register, where, like doctors, they get a license from the medical council. Yeah, the lawyers get a license to practice. They can be independent journalists. They need not be affiliated with any media institution. But once they acquire a certain degree, only they should be recognized as journalists, and not, any Tom, Dick, or Harry. There has to be a minimum benchmark that has to be there. But for that, you also have to ensure that media education is also benchmarked. You have dime a dozen so-called media colleges running out of lanes and bylanes of Delhi and many other cities. So you need to have certain benchmarks for media educators, also media education also. You need to have a medical media council of India, like the Bar Council or the Medical Council, where an institution is recognized. For teaching, they have the right to teach. They cannot be holding any certificate, diploma. There has to be certain benchmarking that has to be done, a certain standardization. I am against uniformity. You cannot be teaching in Kerala what you teach in Kashmir. But standardization. There need to be basic facilities that have to be there. The basic texts have to be there. The basic content has to be taught. These things will have to be brought in.
Yeah. So you've been always against one point, like fake news. You always have said that there is no fake news. So what is that, your thought process about fake informations, which all of us get from all the media?
We have a lot of good, words like propaganda, fake information, misinformation, disinformation, fake content. Why news? News is a product, processed product. News it can be information. What you get is a raw information as a journalist. You and I have worked as hardcore field journalists, What we do is that we do cross-checking, cross-checking. We miss stories. We make blunders also. Then we rectify them. So it's a processed product. You have sourcing. You have checking, cross-checking, verification, cross-verification, adequate sourcing, balancing it out, taking the version of the other side. Only then it becomes a news. So you cannot have something like, it's like saying that, you have a fake policeman. A policeman is a policeman. If anybody fakes, then he is an impersonator. He is not a policeman. He is an impersonator. Yes. So somebody can impersonate, but he is not a policeman. A policeman, somebody who has this badge in place, who has been recruited by the force, who carries a valid identity card, only then he becomes a policeman. So the other person doesn't have these things. So, so one has to distinguish, when we use the term very liberally, fake news. So, you are discrediting news somewhere, I believe that, news should not be discredited. There can be news which are, it can be you can say that it was a wrong information which was given. But news is a processed product, it has been processed. So sometimes mistakes may happen, but the rest is all analysis and, bias and prejudice and whatever you may call it. But news in its purest form, the 5 W's and 1 H, so I am a conservative to that extent, on news I cannot compromise. It will have to have the 5 W's and 1 H. For me, that is news. The rest is something else, not news. It can be entertainment. People ask me about, the debates and the prime time debates and all that. I say that that's not news. That's not news. You can call it entertainment. You can call it spectacle. You can call it whatever, but not news. News is 5 W's and 1 H. What happened today? What happened in Bengal today? What happened in Assam today? What happened in Tamil Nadu today? For me, that is the 5 Ws and 1 S. That's what I'm interested as a news. When I look at a news channel, I open a news bulletin, I am expecting that. Okay, you can analyze that, you can have a perspective, that's different. But news, the exact thing, what happened. If there is an accident, how many people got killed? If there is COVID, how many people have been tested positive? How many have died? How many, vaccinations have taken place? The fact figures, the data, the statistics, the exact thing. That is news. The rest, why it did not happen, why it happened, that's all analysis. So how can this be fake?
Yeah, this can be. So data journalism is picking up in the mainstream journalism these days.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, is it going to be pure kind of data analysis will happen, or there are scopes for manipulation in that particular segment also? I mean, the journalist has to be trained and should put into kind of an experience of doing data journalism, wherein a university like Makhanlal Chaturvedi can help in that.
You see, without training, that's what I mentioned, training
Yeah,
is the key. Otherwise, data is available on the Google.
yeah,
All kinds of data are available. Can you trust them? How
that's
do you
the big
whether the
question.
data you have got is it from the right kind of authorities? Has it been verified? So there are so many data which are available. Now, what are you going to trust? The trust factor is very important because that has a connect to the credibility of the media platform. So when you give an information, that has to be a reliable data. Obviously, media houses don't generate data.
Yeah.
So it is always secondary sources. There is no primary source unless you are doing a survey or something like that.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's all secondary. So when you are dealing with secondary data, you have to be very careful. The source of the data, the modus operandi, the method. You say that so many people are in. Say there is a Pew survey, which is about the popularity of politicians and stuff like that. So the so and so American president right now, he enjoys 69% popularity. So I would like to know that who are the respondents. You know,
Yeah.
where were all they scattered? Has it taken a sample size of what is the sample size? Does it represent the United States of America, a huge country like that? So only then I would be able to say that whether this data is reliable or not. So you see so many poll surveys, opinion polls coming before the elections, around election time. So now that is data. So are you going to publish it just like that, or are you going to get into it? That is where we teach, what all things have to be looked at. What are the variables which are there? So these things will have to be factored in. Yes.
So this is the last question. According to you, what is going to be the future of media in India or worldwide in that sense?
It's going to be a blend of print, electronic, and digital. And all three will have to reinvent. If at the end of the day, it has to be credibility. And, they should know that the audience are changing. They cannot get away with murder anymore. People are aware of fake content. People are increasingly becoming aware of propaganda, misinformation, disinformation. So there is absolutely, uh, you know, uh, no way that you can escape public scrutiny. You are constantly under public scrutiny. Now there is also a transition now. Apart from people looking for customized content, people are also looking at supporting platforms which are independent. You are seeing a lot of cloud funded platforms which are coming up today. Apart from, say, there used to be a time when middle class houses would just have a television set and they will pay for the cable operator. Today they are paying for OTT platforms because they want better content. So you are now getting into an era where the the Indian consumer has money in his pocket, and he is willing to pay for entertainment and, if required, for information, for quality, for independent information also. So that means the reliability on advertisement is going to decrease. It will take time, but it will gradually, so it would be a gradually you will see a lot of subscriber based platforms, not woefully dependent on corporates and advertisements. So these are the changes that are going to happen, and they have to realize. The sooner they realize that you cannot be imposing anything and everything. You will have to look at what the people want. Do they want it or not? Before every product is launched in the market, they do a consumer survey. So are you doing? I don't see any media house doing that survey. What do the people want to read? So you are virtually imposing your agenda on them. Those times have changed. That is what we have to accept, and we will have to reinvent.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving your.
Always a pleasure talking to you, Sharon, for an insightful interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.